story. The story of how I met your mother.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Saget.
Thank you, and a special welcome to our special 1 hour special. This is a salute to boneheads. Thank you. One guy. How do you know if you're a bonehead, you might ask? Well, you're watching this show, aren't you?
Everybody wishes they could change something about themselves. Heck, when I was a kid, I wished I could have been more like that guy on The Incredible Hulk.
You want to be a big green monster with muscles?
No, not him, the other guy, the guy that turned into the Hulk.
I never got to sleep over my friends' houses. Anybody get to do that? You slept over my friends' houses? I never got to. I said, Mom, why not? She said, Bob, you have no friends and you have no life, and I'm not your mother, okay? Don't applaud that. You're scum, buddy. You really are.
Bob Saget, huh?
Oh, Bob Saget. You and my ex-wife both texted me at the exact same time last night that Bob Saget had died.
Yeah, that spread quick, and that's a real bummer.
I was in the middle of hanging a very heavy mirror on the wall of our guest room, and my phone's going bing, bing, and I look down, and it's you and my ex-wife both informing me that Bob Saget had died. So sad, so sad, so sad. Very sad. Do you know who Bob Saget is, Poundcake?
I do. I was just asking, what are we placing our bets on as to what killed him? Is it drugs? Is it cardiac arrest? Is it...
I think it's murder.
Did he get murdered like Jeffrey Epstein? Like, did he suicide? Suicided?
Well, what did they say? There are no signs of foul play or drug use. 65 years old.
But 65 is very young. He didn't appear to be in awful health.
It's not very young. I mean, it's certainly...
It's young to die in your sleep.
I was going to say it's scary because my mom's like 63.
Well, maybe she's... maybe all that rotisserie chicken is keeping her healthy. Who knows? Maybe she's... If I were to place my bet, I would probably think heart attack. Was he a cocaine guy back in the day? I know he was on Entourage, but that was
that's all I'm going off of.
A caricature of Bob Saget at the time.
He probably did some cocaine in the 80s. I don't know if he was like a cocaine guy. Like, I know a lot of... I never worked with him, but I know a lot of people that did, and they had nothing but good things to say. They didn't say he was like a partier or anything like that, which is why, he was a dirtier comic than people were expecting, but he wasn't like a maniac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd only had him on this show one time when I was on in Chicago, and he did a lot of charity work for scleroderma, which is a skin disease that took two of his sisters or something. I mean, there had a lot of tragedy in that Saget family. Both of his parents died years ago, and he and his wife, his current wife, had only been married for a few years. She's considerably younger than he is, but he's got grown kids. And
are we placing our bets on her? Does she have something to do with it?
He was in Orlando. She's in Los Angeles, as best as I can see.
Sweetie, let me pack your lunch for your trip.
Mm-hmm. Pack your lunch as though he was going to one place and then coming back.
I'm just saying.
But if you followed him on social media, he was talking about how he had kind of found this renewed love of doing stand-up comedy after many years, and he was so happy to be back doing it and blah, blah, blah. I would think that it would just be some kind of cardiac situation, right? If you die in your sleep. Isn't that traditionally what they come up with? They go,
usually, or like an aneurysm or something like that.
And who knows if he was on any kind of prescription medications? Who knows? They'll find out, and then they'll make it public. But the biggest bummer of all is that all of those America's Funniest Home Videos that are on Disney Plus, they start with the Tom Bergeron era, and I don't know why that is. My daughter's been on a real AFV kick.
Really? They don't include
no, it's
the
just
OG Bob Saget?
No, Bob Saget did it from 89 to 97, and then it was Tom Bergeron. And then they went off in a handful of different directions, but my daughter has been on a real AFV kick. And yeah, it starts with the Bergeron era over
Didn't
there
they
on
just
Disney
go right
Plus.
to Alfonso Ribeiro?
No, there were a few years where it was the terrible twosome of Daisy Fuentes and a guy named John Fugelsang.
That's right.
Remember Daisy Fuentes? And John Fugelsang, who's technically a comedian, but he's kind of a self-styled far-left firebrand now. But they did it for a little while, I think to kind of relatively mild acclaim. I think when people think America's Funniest Home Videos for a long time, they thought of Bob Saget. Mm-hmm. And he was a guy who had been Now, I didn't watch Full House. I think I was a little too old for Full House when it was a thing.
Probably.
But you guys all came up in
Yes.
the Full House era.
Yes.
And Bob Saget was kind of the one and only choice for Danny Tanner on that show, but he had been signed to another, he had gotten a CBS sitcom, some show called what was it called? It was called The Morning Program. And so Bob Saget had been cast, and so they cast another guy to play Danny Tanner on Full House. They shot the pilot. The pilot never aired, but it was this actor named John Posey who had been in a lot of things. If you were watching a lot of television in the 70s and 80s, you would have seen John Posey. Poundcake knows his son Tyler Posey, very famous, right? You
has an
have the
OnlyFans.
hots for him. There you go. He has an OnlyFans.
I met him on the red carpet too. I met him and his brother. They're both hot.
Yeah.
His brother's a stunt double.
OnlyFans, by the way, slightly misleading in that it doesn't require you to be a fan. It requires you to be curious. But it's really not for only fans.
Or to have a fan.
If you got $5, you can get on there. You know what I mean? So anyway, so they cast, because Bob Saget was unavailable, they cast this John Posey guy. Well, the Saget sitcom over on CBS gets canceled like in 6 or 7 months, so he's out there. So the Full House people go to this John Posey guy and go, "You're out because we wanted Saget the whole time." And this guy's like, "Well, I didn't do anything wrong."
Did anything air with him?
No, they shot a
Yeah.
pilot, but nothing aired. He had already started to bond with the Olsen twins, and so I guess they were pretty bummed. But yeah, Bob Saget was, he's just a comic in L.A. He warmed up the crowd for Bosom Buddies. That was one of the first gigs that he had. If you remember that sitcom with Tom Hanks called Bosom Buddies, Bob Saget was they always had comics that would warm up the crowd at those shows, and that's what Bob Saget did. So obviously they'll get all kinds of information, and they'll find out what happened. But, we're in a world where Norm Macdonald and Bob Saget are gone, but Keith Richards and Ozzy and Artie Lang, and they're all trucking. They're still going, and everything's fine. Nothing's bothering them at all. ABC actually was airing America's Funniest Videos last night when the news broke about Bob Saget, and they cut into the show just as Alfonso Ribeiro, who I guess was Carlton on The Fresh Prince, is that what he's best known for? He's announcing who won the $10,000, because they give away money at the end. Hey, here's who got the money. Mm-hmm. And they cut right in over there to let everybody know what happened.
Feriolo from Staten Island, New York.
And then they do this visual countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on ABC News.
This is an ABC News special report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. We are coming on the air interrupting America's Funniest Home Videos in the East because we've learned actor and comedian Bob Saget has died. He was, of course, the longtime host of the show, also best known for his role as Danny Tanner on the show Full House. Authorities say he was in a hotel room in a Ritz-Carlton, Orlando. He had been there on tour. The cause of death remains unknown. Bob Saget was 65 and leaves behind a wife and 3 children. We now return you to regularly scheduled programming.
We're going to send you back now to the show that he famously hosted for
Here's
many
someone
minutes.
getting kicked in the balls.
Well, it's not a Full House anymore.
AFV, and they have all these spin-offs now. So they have, you can watch Just Animals, with Carlton. Alfonso Ribeiro is the guy. But Bob Saget was the guy who really put that show on the map back in the day. And they cut in. When Betty White dies, you've got publications and you've got news organizations. They've had that obituary locked and loaded for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bob Saget.
Not ready?
Nope, not ready. They're going on the air, and they're like, hey, this guy died. We don't know what happened. Betty White, they've been waiting to fire that one off. But Bob Saget, and of course, just, any person who posted anything about Bob Saget, there wasn't one person going, this guy sucked. I met him one time, and he was off. Everybody had nothing but glowing, lovely things to say. Even the late Norm Macdonald, who, if you watch the Bob Saget roast over there on Comedy Central, that was when Norm famously did all those super lame dad jokes because he's a friend of mine and I can't make fun of him.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna make these weirdo jokes and So poor Bob Saget. He had a young wife, young hot wife. So for Poundcake thinking that his wife packed him a lunch and poisoned it, why would she kill the golden goose? I don't know what his wife does.
I like the idea.
He's Bob Saget.
of him needing, well, not even needing, but him eating a packed lunch while staying at a Ritz-Carlton.
Right.
Yeah, this wasn't a comic on the road staying at like a Motel 6, right?
I have to pack
like
my food.
where Mary stays when she's in Minneapolis or whatever. You know?
I have to, so I don't spend the extra $10 that day. I don't think he's really worried about packing a lunch.
No, if he had a room service tray probably on the floor outside the door of his room.
Now the question is, does that room rate go up? Do you want to stay in the room where Bob Saget died?
Do they advertise stuff like that?
No.
Special.
No, they don't advertise things like that.
I think they do.
They don't. How and where would they? Let's follow this through to its logical.
Whitney Houston died
Let's follow this through to. Yes, because there are sickos and ghouls who care about Whitney Houston dying in the tub.
And there's people that will care that Bob Saget, the room where
yeah, but it's not
Lincoln
like
Park
on the
died.
website. If you go to hotels.com, they're like,
I'm not
do you
saying
want to stay
that.
here?
But when you go to the hotel, I'm sure people will ask, like, hey, is this where, Bob Saget died? And they were like, yeah, it is. They can't lie about it. It's on the news. And they're like, well,
Yeah,
how
but
much
they
would his
can't
room be?
Say, like, I don't think they're charging an extra.
They can't make money off of it. You
Yes,
can't
they
profit off
premium
someone's
fee.
death,
Yeah.
I don't think.
Oh, yes, you can.
And I also think it's safe
you
to say
can,
that
but-
Whitney Houston occupied a much wider spectrum of fame than perhaps Bob Saget did.
What about
too.
Chester Bennington?
Who's Rochester Bennington?
I said Chester Bennington.
Sure, you figure all that out and write to hotels.com.
Yeah, find us
tell
some
them
proof.
what. Yeah, well, no, just tell them
I'm
what
just asking.
Tell them what a golden opportunity they're missing out on, a new revenue stream. You guys should really be letting people know that this is where these people died.
Like the rooms that Elvis overdosed in, like he overdosed in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. You think that room wouldn't
Was
go
that?
up?
I thought that was the bathroom of his house.
That was his home.
That was a
Oh, okay,
Graceland,
then
I
never mind.
think. Never mind. And if to answer your question, they do give tours of Graceland. I don't know if they go, hey, that's where he hit his head and died. That's a toilet he slumped over and died, but who knows? I've got to take a break. Back to giving you money, by the way. Chance for you to go fund yourself at 30 past every hour here on the show today. So 2:30 is going to be the next keyword for you to grab yourself $1,000. We're back in it, so listen closely for that. 35192 if you want to text for anything, and we'll be back.